6 a.m. Central African time. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for choosing to wake up with us here on Eswatini TV. Kusile breakfast show. It's a beautiful morning indeed, starting the day with cold temperatures, of course, subsequent to what we experienced yesterday, which wasn't really something that I expected, really. But we did experience some drizzling yesterday, and indeed, we wake up in cooling temperatures this morning. Again, temperatures expected to rise up to 20 degrees Celsius. So you do want to carry that jacket, you do want to carry that jersey, just in case. Summer is very tricky. But yeah, very good morning once again. Thank you for joining us. Just filling you up with what you should expect today. Myself and Kusile are ready to give you exactly that lowdown. We hope that you are waking up in good spirits and that you are ready to enjoy the program. Kusile, good morning.
Good morning, Sister. How are you?
Doing all right.
Great, great. A very good morning to our viewers as well. And on the program today, Interpol has issued a global warning on the surge of sextortion and romance scams, calling some of them the most profitable and emotionally devastating forms of cybercrime. And of course, Eswatini is not immune to this in any way. As we observe the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, these warnings hit close to home, from teenagers trapped in online extortion schemes to professionals targeted through fake profiles and phishing links. Cybercrime is becoming a daily reality for many Eswatini, which is why today actually we zero in on how prepared Eswatini is to defend its digital borders and what role do awareness, regulation and personal responsibility play in ensuring a safer online culture. Joining us in the studio today to unpack these issues will be figures at the forefront of the fight against cybercrime. That is the Senior Assistant Commissioner of Police, Nicholas Chele, and ESCOM Cybercrime Assistant Director, Noktula Hlope. They will help us understand not just how these scams work, but how we as a nation, you and I as individuals, can fight back.
And indeed, a topic around education, which of course remains the single most important and powerful investment that any nation can make in its people. Here in Eswatini, that investment is taking shape through a landmark initiative, the Strengthening Early Childhood Development and Basic Education Systems Project. It's a project that is designed to improve quality, to improve access as well as equity in learning from the earliest years. The project, that is led by the World Bank in partnership with the Ministry of Education and Training, has already rolled out the new competency-based curriculum for grades 1 up to 3. It has supported over 1,200 teachers and has introduced digital learning tools for junior secondary schools. Joining us this morning to unpack the vision, the progress, as well as the future of this transformation is Dr. Kusile Lukele. He's the education specialist with the World Bank and part of the team that is leading Eswatini's basic education's reform journey. All those conversations this morning.
Very
it
essential.
Looks to be a very insightful program, Kusile, and I hope our viewers are ready for that.
But first, we're going to have a look at some of what's making headlines in print this morning. In some of our newspapers this morning, we're waking up to different headlines, interesting headlines, and starting off strong with the Times of Eswatini this morning. Dula pay, joy and tears for some. Some civil servants and other members of the public were queuing for withdrawals in certain banks yesterday. This is actually after civil servants received their Dula pay yesterday. Anti-HIV injection arrives next month. PrEP to be taken twice a year. Pregnant breastfeeding women to be prioritized. And Eswatini is actually among first 2 countries in the world to roll out medication. In other headlining stories, still with the Times of Eswatini, major shake-up at the Royal Eswatini Police Service. And according to Prime Minister of Education Owen Malo acted outside of the law. This is with regards to High School's dispute. And in a disheartening headline, men found dead with 14 stab wounds.
All right, we turn to the back end of the Times of Eswatini, the Tuesday edition. And the top story there, gate fees loss for homeless MB teams. That is double headers, Double headers force crowd pullers to share takings, and it's no more mandatory equal sharing of tickets revenue. The last story speaks to Simba coach who hails tough and Singizini Hotspurs.
And on the Eswatini Observer front page this morning, a judge's escort vehicle was yesterday involved in a freak accident while ascending the Malakane Hill. In another headlining stories, still with the Eswatini Observer, Tula confusion, and PSUs accuse government of not issuing establishment circular prior to payment of salaries, thus are confused on review implementation. In another story, tourism minister to be investigated for contempt of parliament. That's actually a story on page 4 of the Eswatini Observer. And also again, men stabbed 14 times, dies.
All right, the back end of the Eswatini Observer. Wanderers in turmoil again. Infighting between MC and NSC threatens club stability, while interference in coaches' selection adds fuel to the fire. In other stories, PLE expands awards package, while government eyes transformative sport through Sports Act, and Cloggy is impressed despite exit.
In some of the headlining stories we're waking up to on the Eswatini Daily News front page this morning. Big smiles as public servants receive Tula. Oh, what a time to be a public servant. In other stories, proper housing for vulnerable citizens remains King's top priority. That is, at least according to the Deputy Prime Minister, Kusile. Minister applauds Macmillan's role in advancing Eswatini's education. And also in a very saddening headline, a blow for the Ministry of Commerce as Commissioner of Cooperatives Development, Russell Ngomalo, passes on.
We look at the back end of Eswatini Daily News. Karas making the return. Kuma Bulls is making the top story. Then the headline is Karas makes bull return. Legendary left-footed winger Kaelihle Karas Lamini is the Capital City Giants' new spokesperson. Oh, that is how he makes the return. Anyway, we look at other stories. Government aims to create a clean sports environment, while Timber warns Arsenal against complacency.
And those are just some of the headlining stories we're waking up to in different publications this morning. For more updates, daily updates actually, you can keep up with the Eswatini TV News Facebook page for some of the latest events making news. Otherwise, it's 8 minutes past 6. We're going to have a break after this, our first bulletin for the day.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Tinzoba tetfu tesiswati liphini ndvunankhulu umhlonishwa Kusile letfule tindlu letimbili etinkhundleni letimbili lokuyinkhundla yaseMangcongco kanye nenkhundla yaseMhlambanyatsi. liphindela ndvunankhulu lithi bosonhlalakahle belihhovisi lakhe batawuhlala phansi nemabandla etinkhundla babukete-ke tidzingo tetinkhundla kute nasekuhlelwa ukuthi emaphakelo atawusebenta kanjani kwade-ke kutsi nguliphi lusito loludzingeke masinyane. Liphindela ndvunankhulu likuvete loku uma lephetsa luhambo lwalo endzaweni yasemabhukwini eMangcongco.
Liphindela ndvunankhulu umhlonishwa Thuli Dladla licale ngekwetfula indlu lenemakamelo lamabili kubawini lephakathi loneminyaka lengu-56 lobekahlala endlini ledzilikako ngesizatfu setimvula. Liphindela ndvunankhulu umhlonishwa Thuli Dladla lithi-ke kusifiso semakhosi kutsi tehlakalo tetimvula titsina tifika tikhandze labo labadzinge tindlu sebavele banato.
Kusebenta i-constitution kuthatha lichi kepha-ke umthetho wayo le-decentralization vele uyakhankaswa utokhona ukuthi lama-services abele hulumende abele kubantu atokhona ukuthi umuntu angagibeli ibhasi lokude naye nalozuka ayoshona embabane lena nje bengakhiwa ingakabagcobi bebese sicalile ukuthi tfola letimali tekuthi asigijime embili lithi lita litulu ngekuthi phela ematubane ethu akasi makhulu kangako vele labanye tawufika letulu singakefiki kulo kepha lesikulwelako nyalo asihambe embili.
Bawini lephakathi lo wemukele lendlu uthi impilo yakhe beyimadima kakhulu ngoba imvula beyimnetha asekhathe endlini.
Emakhosi Nkosi yami ngitibongela kakhulu ngweselwe emandla nginenjabulo ngabe ichichima tinyembeti lesimo bengihlala lapha kulendlu bengithi mangilele iqala imvula liqala iduma bengalali ebusuku.
Sandile Simelane lomelele umphakathi wakazondwako udlumise uhulumende nekuniketa abantu lusito labalidzingako kanye-ke nekusonzeta lusito kubantu.
Kukhona makete lekufuthi sikuqinisekise seyindlunkulu lo mhlabathi la kwakhiwe khona lendlu wakaphakathi kude lotawufika kusasa athi dindzala tabomkhulu ngoba sekabona indlu.
Liphindela ndvunankhulu limemetele ukuthi leli khaya litawubiyelwa. Libandla le-Work by Faith Ministries lethembise kunikela ngetingubo. Liphindela ndvunankhulu-ke nelibandla lakhe bachubekele emabhukwini ngaphansi kwenkhundla yakuMangcongco lapho betfule indlu enemakamelo lamabili kumkhulu Robert Mabuza lona 77 weminyaka. Mkhulu Mabuza ulandzise ngelusito lalutfole kubomakhelwane kanye-ke nesimo bekaphila ngephansi kwaso.
Bengembesa liseyili etukwethu ingubo lina litulu njoba lina litulu ngithi hawu ngithi awufela khona lamabhukwini nje bekungasho sibanengi satawubonana labanye bathi cha kusazi ngibonge kakhulu kini nine nisiphethe kulomanga.
Liphindela ndvunankhulu umhlonishwa Thuli Dladla lithi bantfu labadzala bakhetheke kakhulu kuwo emakhosi elive uthi emakhosi atfume uhulumende ukuthi ente siciniseko ukuthi bayanakekeleka.
Nine phela vele ni special enkosini ni special emakhosini ethu ithi teyilapha eParliamente yathi icela sigcinele nine ningahlukubeteki ningaphatheki kabi yaze yaphuma yathi abakhelwe tindlu bantu abadzala lokukhanza kwekuthi abanabani ngenhlahla lembi-ke sisemuva nalo msebenzi nalendlu ngaba ikadzilile bebekanze lamatubane ethu athwele imali bosonhlala kahle baka-DPM bakhona bagcwele sibahlale phasi nenkhundla batibuke letindlu ngenteka tigcobe bantu kubuye sithi mase siplana sesilungisa noma sesilungisela umnyaka lodakwethu imali sathi sikuMangcongco enkundleni dingaphi tindlu lesicabanga ukuthi tidzinga i-attention yethu.
Lilunga lephalamende lenkundla yaseMangqongqo umhlonishwa Lomalanga Dlamini lithi-ke le nkundla inetinsaya letinyenti.
Siyabonga kakhulu ofisi laka DPM, siyabonga futhi asicedi lokubonga. Inkinga kwesami lesinayo DPM na ngicabanga ukuthi sowubonile nawe uhambe emadima la ndleleni. Kulukhuni kakhulu nebantwana nje labafundza abo high school besuka la. Bayofika le la ubranch ekhona eTnyonini. Bahamba kona lo mgwaqo lo. Akusinemgwaqo indlela.
Jabulani Dlamini lomelele umphakathi wasemabhukwini ukhuthatwe ukuthi kube nekuphathana kahle kubantwana bamkhulu baphinzeke bayadi indlunkulu.
Ayiphathise ukuthi kalite mantungo lendlu. Kulivela kancane abantu abakethu lokho. Nakubantu abakhe kulivela kancane. Lesingakusho nje kubantu abakhe. Indlunkulu kabayadi. Ngoba konke lokudalwa indlunkulu. Kube bengekho indlunkulu ngakukho.
Liphinlandvuna nkhulu letfule kudla imibhedze likhabethe letimpahla kumkhulu uMabuza kanti-ke letindlu totimbili tibite imali lenganga 360,000 emalangeni. Kubika Sontomlangeni emabhukwini kuMangqongqo.
Indvuna yelitiko letangephandle nekudlelana nalamanye emave umhlonishwa Pholile Shakhantu uthi live laKangwane nele-Russia linetivumelwano letenta kutsi labanema-diplomatic passport kanye-ke nema-service passport bangatsingi ivisa kungena kulela live. Indvuna ithi tinkulumo letabakhona nendvuna yetangephandle eveni le-Russia Sergey Lavrov eminyakeni lophelile setende kutsi live le-Russia livete kutsi lisabuketa kutsi sive lesinema-international passports sakuleli nanaso sikhone kungena kube melula live langaphandle kwevisa.
Live laKangwane lijabulela isivumelwano lesikhona emkhatsini welive laseswatini kanye nele-Russia sekuthi labanema-diplomatic nema-service passport bakhone kungena eRussia ngaphandle kwevisa. Eminyakeni lophelile indvuna yelitiko letangephandle nekudlelana nalamanye emave kuleli umhlonishwa Pholile Shakhantu yahlangana nemlingani wayo umhlonishwa Sergey Lavrov lapho kwabuketwa kuqiniswa kwebudlelwano balamave lamabili. Lo mhlangano lo wabakhona wabeseke uthela titselo tekuthi kubuketwe letinye tindlela tekubambisana etinhlangotsini letfaka ekhatsi tekuvakasha kanye netekutsengiselana. Ngemuva kwaletinkulumo live le-Russia lancoma kutsi likhulise tinhlangotsi letingakhona kungena kulolu hlelo lokungena eRussia ngaphandle kwesidingo sevisa lokufaka ekhatsi labanema-international passports latayilekile. Indvuna yetangephandle kuleli umhlonishwa Pholile Shakhantu ithi lesincomo sekuvulela sive lesinalama-international passports lajwayelekile kutawenta kutsi kube melula kuphuma nekungena kulamave omabili lokuyintfo letawutfutfukisa tekuvakasha, kukhulise tekutsengiselana, kuphinzeke kwenyuse nelizinga lekuchumana nje kwebantfu people-to-people connection. Indvuna ithi litiko letasekhaya lisabuketa lesincomo. Shakhantu uthi laKangwane libheke kutsi lizuze kakhulu kulolu hlelo etinhlangotsini letfaka ekhatsi kutfola bahlanyeli imali kulolu hlangothi lwetekuvakasha, kuvula ematfuba etekutsengiselana kanjalo nekuvula ematfuba ekuthi bantfwana bemaswati bakhone kufundza eRussia. Indvuna-ke ithi lokubambisana kuvete inshisekelo yelive laKangwane lekukhulisa budlelwano nalamanye emave. Indvuna iphindze yaveta kutsi tivumelwano letiphatselene nemavisa tisincumo selive nangelive atishayisani nemigomo yetinhlangano letfaka ekhatsi inhlangano yemave laseNdas ne-Afrika i-SADC kanye nenhlangano yebunye bemave ase-Afrika e-African Union. Indvuna ithi tindzaba tekuphepha telive netesifundza ngeke tize tikhinyabeteke njengoba yativakashi titabe ti-7 laKangwane. Indvuna ithi lesincomo nasingaphumelela singashicilela budlelwano lobukhona emkhatsini welive laKangwane nele-Russia kuphinzeke kuvulele ematfuba langakhulisa umnotfo kanye nekufundza ngemasiko alamave lamabili, cultural exchange. Kubika Sontomlangeni eMbabane.
Tingu-176 tincwadzi lesetitfolakala ngetebuchwephesha kuleto letingu-202 letisemabangeni laphansi etikolweni takuleli pheceleti ema-primary school. lokho kuvakele ngesikhathi indvuna yetemfundvo umhlonishwa owenqumalo ivakashele inkampani yakaMacmillan kuMathapha. Indvuna ifike yachazelwa ukuthi iwarehouse yaMacmillan lekuleli ithumela tincwadzi emaveni lafaka ekhatsi iNingizimu Afrika, iNamibia kanye neLesotho. Indvuna itvumise umsebenzi lowentiwa nguMacmillan ekutfutfukiseni itemfundvo takuleli kanye nasekucijeni emakhono ebabhali betincwadzi labangemaswati.
Macmillan wafika eveni laKangwane ngeminyaka wanga-1979 kwathi ngeminyaka wa-1991 John Carmichael lebekadza indvuna yetemfundvo ngaleso sikhatsi wavula indlunkulu yaMacmillan kuMathapha ngalokusemtsetfweni letsiwa ligama lelithi nguMahusha House. Kule minyaka lengama-46 Macmillan asebenta eveni ubambisene kakhulu nahulumende ekutfutfukiseni itemfundvo kuleli. Indvuna yetemfundvo umhlonishwa owenqumalo ngemsomdluko ivakashele indlunkulu yaMacmillan lapho ichazelwe khona ukuthi njengoba live lisemgomeni wekutfutfukisa tebuchwephesha ngiso nasetikolweni, Macmillan sewukhonile ukuthi tincwadzi letingu-176 kuleto letingu-202 letisebenziswa kwetigabeni letehlukene emabangeni laphansi kuleli titholakale ngendlela tebuchwephesha.
The government's digital transformation strategy 2024-2028 sets out a bold vision, one where technology amplifies human potential, and a vision where learning reaches every corner of our kingdom.
Indvuna yetemfundvo idumise umsebenzi lomkhulu lowentiwa nguMacmillan abambisene ne-Curriculum Center ngekuqinisa imfundo yemakhono pheceleti competency-based education.
Cale ngikubonga ukuthi ingonyama inkosi Sobhuza kube ngiyo lethi Macmillan akabuye Kangwane atosebenza. Sibonge nebudlelwano lobuhle lokube khona kuhulumende naMacmillan. Namuhla sikhuluma sinabonjinela, sinabonesi, sinabameli, sinabominister ngema-efforts yaMacmillan. Sibonge ngokuthi ukubhala kwabo tincwadzi ukuthi ikhicita letincwadzi kuya ngokuthuthuka. Sine nje nasafunza bekubhethi Mr. Moyo kepha nawubuka inalo letincwadzi uyabona ukuthi lizinga seliphakeme. Ngijatshuliswa ukuthi Macmillan uyahlonipha live. Konke lokwenteka eveni uyakhona kufana phetincwadzini. Ngifungile nje kulesinye isikolwa ngabona abantwana bafundisa ngemtsiba. Ngajabula. Nanyalo uyangicocela nje MD letinto tokuba patriotic kubantwana ukuthi bayakusebenza lokho.
Indzaba yekuthi konke lokukhicitwako kube sezingeni lelifanele kunetigaba letingu-59 letihanjwako kaMacmillan ngaphambi kwekube bakhicite pheceleti equality control processes. Kubika lengithini kule nami Nombendulo Shabalala sikuMathapha.
Ngakulokunye indvuna yetemfundvo umhlonishwa owenqumalo sethembise abaphathi benyuvesi kanye nebafundzi ukuthi tinsaya letibhekene nenyuvesi hulumende uyatisebenta. Lokhu kufaka ekhatsi ukuthi kukhule imali kude kuthengwe imphahla yale nyuvesi pheceleti ifurniture kanye nekwenta siciniseko sekwekuthi tekuphepha tiba sezingeni lelisetulu kule nyuvesi. Indvuna beyikhuluma enyuvesi yeKwaLuseni ngemuva kwekubamba umhlangano nebaphathi bakule nyuvesi kulandzela ukuthi bafundzi bavakalise kukhala kwabo ngesimo lesikhona.
Lokunye ke lenkukhandzako lapha lekufuna uhulumende akulungise. Le mali vele kuyabonakala ukuthi nayo le mali esiyilethako 16,000 incane le mali leyo ukuthi ingakhona ukuthi university ikhone kudenda tongo letindleko. Siyabonga ukuthi nandunankulu nako lokho uyangibambisa naye wemlangeni ukubonile ukuthi uhulumende ufuna akulungise. Noma kulala amanye ama-university ukhanzela ukuthi sibhadala imali esedunu. Kepha labantwana labatibhadalela kubona babhadala imali lenganga 26,000. So iyapropose ke university lokuthi nangakhishwa kunganga standardized vele kukhishwe wonke lo 26,000 uhulumende akhiphe 26,000 nalaba laba self sponsored babaye bakhiphe 26,000. Lokho kungakha kungasibeka esimeni lesingcono kunalopho lapho khona university ikhona khona. Siyathemba ukuthi tindzaba sitachubeka sithi sebende ngalesathu njena sitabe sethula ireport noma le task team seyicedzile ngalesithathu-ke ngilaphinda sibuye la sithi oyithula le report lelo badlalelo-ke litawuchubeka likhone ku-implementa lama-findings noma kule report kuyasho vele ukuthi ngitiphi tingoni lapho khona i-university funa tilungiswe khona nayo-ke leyo report leyo ngiyo letaba ngumkhombandlela ukuthi tindzaba tase-university sitibheka kuphi umuntu angaphinza abonge ukuthi bhesa so ucashiwe uyasiniketa lithemba nasimuva khuluma nala suka khona uyasiniketa lithemba lokuthi cha utawufaka umfutho asibambise ukuthi i-university ibuyele ibe ngilapho khona ingonyama ifuna khona.
Umphathi wenyuvesi yakuleli Professor Justice Thwala uthi inyuvesi yakuleli itimisele kuba lihlahlandlela ekwendeni lucwaningo ukuthi umnotho welive ume njani ngakwekuthi ikhulumisane nabo bonke labathintekako kude kutholakale likhambi lelikhonsako lekusimamisa umnotho. Thwala bekakhuluma enyuvesi yeKwaluseni uma kuchubeka i-public lecture kanye nekwetfulwa kwe-economic report on Africa.
SADC ne-Afrika yonkana beyijongile lokuthi ngeminyaka wa-2063 i-Afrika yonkana ibe seyikhona kukhicita ikakhulu through industrialization. Lokusho ukuthi-ke nalamhla kubuketwa tindzaba tema-policies lokusho ukuthi ma-strategies lesingathi ngesiswati mhlawumbe tindlela tekubuketa ukuthi imiphi imigomo lengasetshenziswa ekukhuliseni umnotho nalokuthi nje sibe industrialized as-Africa sitokhona kudependa sisolve netinkinga letibhekene nekuphela kwemisebenzi e-Afrika netifo letikhona nabo climate change. Kuyabonakala ukuthi mhlawumbe ngendzaba yema-tariffs netindzaba tema-certain sectors of the economy letingasi-regulated lapho kude khona ama-tariffs nawo kungiletinye tingqinamba letivimbela ukuthi sithuthuke sive sase-Afrika.
Lesi emekuachieve ukuthi as i-faculty of social sciences we want to be in the forefront of research but also translate what we teach our students through robust research and also collaboration with the industry. So this is part of the initiatives because we are also partnering now in terms of the African Commission for Economics and Development. Kule-student langekhathi sizama ukuthi babone ukuthi le theory zifundisako nala classini is basically is what is happening outside. So ngile mizamo yethu siyendako lokuthi sikhone ukuthi we not only teaching theory but siphinde senze with development through our researches that we do through our staff and also for our students.
Libandla lelengamele temvelo kuleli ngekubambisana nenhlangano yakamhlaba United Nations Development Program ibambe umhlangano lapho icecesha khona bonjinyela labasebenta ngema-fridge kubafundzisa ngemitsetfo lekhona eveni naleyo live leliyisayinile yakamhlaba lehlose kucedza nya kungena kwema-fridge lanebuthi lobulimata-ke litfatfasi. Lo mhlangano ubanjelwe ehhotela le-The George kaManzini.
Live laseswatini lingulelinye lemave lachubekako nekushicelela umgomo wakamhlaba lowatengeka ukuthi yi-Montreal Protocol lowasayinwa ngeminyaka wa-1987. Inhloso yawo kukumisa konke lokulimata lidwadwase esibhakabhakeni. Libandla lelengamele imvelo kuleli EEA lihlangene nabo bonke labasebenzisa ema-fridge nema-air conditioners kuleli kude bafundziseke kabanti ngemitsetfo lekhona eveni lehlose kumisa onke ema-fridge nema-air conditioner lanalobuthi lobungafuneki.
So siwo Eswatini Environment Authority sibambisane nayo UNDP lesikulethako sifuna kuletha lolwati. Silethe lolwati lesiletha kulamaswati onke laba bonjinyela balama-fridge ukuthi nangu umthetho uyashintsha kulokushintsha kwalomthetho nako lokubhekanekiko kini and kuloku lokubhekanekini sifuna kunibambisa ekutheni le association yenu kube i-association impela libunjwano leluqinile lelitawukhona kubambisa live kuloku live lelikusayinele buhlabuhlangene.
Umengameli wenhlangano yalabasebenzisa ema-fridge nema-air conditioners kuleli uthi kumcoka kakhulu ukuthi bangasaleli ngephandle nakunetinguquko letindiwako emhlabeni naseveni.
silutholele lwati kufuna silwehlisele kulabantu because uma nyalo kunalo gesi lovuthako lo gesi lovuthako uma ungakafunziseki ngawo utata ibulala sinayo nje isigameko sinye sakangwane South Africa ngibona sina 4 eMozambique sina 2 lebala siba sicokele ngato kuba kubi impela because umuntu uyasha kusha then one khona lo wafake one of the countries lebasikhombise wona kusanye lona ke vele asimaka sebenzisa lo gesi wangasebenzisi ngendlela wangathi tekuphepha beyangadadi wagcina ashonile.
Umphathi ka-UNDP uthi umselive lakangwane ngekufaka emandla laphinziwe ekushicileleni lo mgomo lowachibelwa eKigali ngeminyaka wa-2016.
Eswatini is part of a global success story, the Montreal Protocol and its Kigali Amendment, which is widely recognized as the most successful multilateral agreement in time. These agreements began as a response to ozone depletion, but they have evolved into a powerful tool for climate action. Phasing out HCFCs, particularly HCFC 22, which is still in use here in Eswatini, is not only about environmental compliance, but it is about reducing greenhouse gases and cooling the planet.
Live lakangwane litibekele ukuthi nakufika umnyaka wa-2030 libe selufeze ngalokuphelele lo mgomo i-Montreal Protocol enganacala umnyaka losedulu ema-regulations lavala kungena kwamafriji lanalobuthi lobungafuneki aphasiswa. Kubika lengithini Gule ngisewetale George Kamansini.
Kutemidlalo indvuna yetemidlalo umhlonishwa Bongani Nzima uthi kuyinfo lenkhulu kuthi live lakangwane libambe umhlangano sikolo alofundzisa ngekuhloba kwebadlali betemidlalo lokukhutsata ukuthi bangasebenzisi titsakamiva phindze bangenti bucili nebucala uma badlala. Indvuna beyikhuluma uma evula lo mhlangano wemave aku-Anoka Zone 6 kuMatsapa.
Lo mhlangano sikolo ungeneleke ngemave lalishumi kanti-ke uhlose kufundzisa labatoya kofundzisa betemidlalo ngekugcina temidlalo tihlobile ikakhulu kuletho tetitsakamiva kanye-ke nekungasebenzisi bucili kusadlalwa.
Hosting this workshop is a mark of pride and affirmation. It reflects our growing commitment to ethics, education and good governance in sport.
Indvuna yetemidlalo Bongani Nzima ivuleke lo mhlangano ifetekene ngobumcoka bekuthi live libambe lo mhlangano lonjengalona lekathi yindvo lenkhulu lephindze khombe ukuthi eSwatini ihambisana nako ukuhlonipha temidlalo kanye-ke nekuphatha kahle kwetemidlalo. Umhlonisha uthi lokhu kuhambisana ngco nekuhlonipha temidlalo jikelele.
Demonstrate through the support of this event that the values of Olympic as well as clean sport are indivisible. Therefore, we must appreciate the universality of these two functions working together.
Kanti-ke lobekamelele mengameli we-Anoka kube nguBotsang Tsengiyongo lothe lo mhlangano sikolo lonjena ukhomba kona ukuthi bayi-Anoka Zone 6 bayakuhambisa embili kuhlonipha kwetemidlalo ngako kumele bachubeke bakusekele njengalokhu bendile naphambilini kulamanye emave.
As yoga, we firmly believe that education is the foundation of clean sport. Through initiatives like OVEP, we empower educators.
Kanti-ke mengameli wenhlangano yemidlalo wema-Olympics kuleli Adam Umthetho uthi kufunza ngiso sicalo sekuhlobisa temidlalo. Umthetho uthi imihlangano lenjengalena iniketa abaqeqeshi bafundzisi nalabanye betemidlalo ukuthi bakhe indzawo lenhle yokuthi temidlalo tidlalwe letindzaweni letikahle. Lo mhlangano utothatha-ke amalanga lamane lapho khona labangenele lo mhlangano batophindzeke bathole nelithuba lekuyobuka letinye tetindzawo letinhle telive. Lobekela umsakato we-Eswatini TV kutemidlalo nguphathisi Msibi kuMatsapa.
Bengameli wenhlangano yemidlalo we-chess kuleli Vukani Dlamini uthi liphupho labo kubona lo mdlalo anguleminye yale mikhulu eveni. Dlamini bekakhuluma elangeni lekugcina lemidlalo yema-National Championships ledlalelwe kuMatsapa. Kanti-ke nolwazi Nkwanyane kanye nakwanele Ngwenya kube ngibo labahambe embili kule midlalo. Asitephethe kanjalo ndzabadethu desiswati. Hlelo litawuchubeka masibuya emakethe.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.za.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi.
Aba-researche, bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna senze ukukhiqiza lokusemndeni.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds, full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Welcome back. You are still watching the, Tuesday edition of Kusile Breakfast Show right here on Eswatini TV. For our first interview segment this morning, Interpol has issued a global warning on the surge of sextortion and romance scams, calling some of them the most profitable and emotionally devastating forms of cybercrime. Now, of course, Eswatini is not immune. Our children are also at risk. The teenagers in this very country are also at risk, which is why I know that I had promised both the REPS and Eswatini, but unfortunately we'll just have to converse with Eswatini today. And Eswatini Cybercrime Assistant Director, Ms. Nokuthula Hlope, joins me in the studio. Very good morning to you, Mapeng. How are you doing?
Good, thanks, Matilda. How are you?
Good, good. So Interpol does say phishing accounts for roughly 1/3 of Africa's cyber incidents. What is this threat particularly, and why is it such a growing concern or a common cyber threat?
Okay, I think we commonly know phishing in Eswatini as bofaqata, but obviously there's different ways where somebody or an attacker will try to get personal information, whether it's your PIN number or something, or make you do something. And they may, because it preys on human emotion. So it's one of the easiest scams ever. And the thing is, it doesn't take a lot of technology to run that scam. I can call you, like the Fakata scams, I can call you and try to impersonate, or, the police or ESCOM or an authority, a figure of authority, for you to give me money. So yes, it's the easiest one. So I think a lot of us fall prey to that because it talks to our emotions. They instill fear, the urgency, and you always think, we are a trusting nation as Eswatini. So you'll trust somebody when they say they are whoever they say they are.
But why is it so difficult? I mean, I understand there's the emotional element to it, but why is it so difficult for me to see it from a mile away? Is it actually easy that I can identify, I could say, oh?
And not really, which is why people need to always be vigilant. They look at, usually all these attackers, they look at what is currently happening. For instance, we've got rains right now. So maybe there'll be disaster somewhere. So they'll talk about the disaster and they'll be like, I'm calling from the disaster recovery, center and. So they look at what is currently happening, and based on whether you are aware of the environment, based on whether you are aware of what is trending, then that's how you're going to know whether it's a scam or not. So I think it's one of those, I can never say, if you've been phished, I can never say you were stupid or something. Right. It just, if you're not always aware and not always suspicious, you can fall victim. Yeah.
A good percentage of the country's population is on social media.
Yeah.
And allow me to share this stat with you by the Interpol. They say in Africa, there is actually a disturbing and rising picture of sextortion and romance scams that's across the continent. We've got 1,200 arrests made between June and August, just this year alone. From the Eswatini standpoint, is this actually a reality? Are we seeing, similar numbers, or is there an escalating case of sextortion and romance scams?
I think it's common. The sextortion is very common, although not usually reported because of shame and the embarrassment that is attached to it. So where we see it, and that's the sad thing, where we see it, it's amongst young people. So you get students that will take pictures, nude pictures or compromising pictures of themselves, send those pictures to their friends or their boyfriends or whatever, and then the person will then extort you, if you don't give me the sexual favor, then I will tell your parents that you sent me this, or I will show your parents, or I will show whoever. So it's an embarrassing thing. So it's really affecting our young people, but it happens even with adults. For instance, you are in a relationship and you have a fallout, and the person has maybe compromising pictures or videos or content of you, and then they'll say, you know what, if you don't do A, B, C, D, I will share this on social media. So it is a common scam. It's just that people are too embarrassed and they don't report.
Yes.
But we've had a couple of reports here and there. Yeah.
So how do we report? Because on one hand, I'm scared that if I go to the police, they will see this picture. I'm scared that if I actually do go to the police, the perpetrator will then just follow through with the plan and start, dispersing my pictures all over the internet. But also, I'm, somewhat skeptic. How exactly will the ESCOM help or assist me in this regard? Because on one end, you're talking about social media platforms that are not really in our control. They are just globally. But exactly how will they come in to intervene in this particular case? Because there's also the issue of privacy and protection online.
Okay, so it's in, maybe let me say in two folds. We are trying to capacitate the police in terms of how to respond to such threats, because you know what, there's a feeling of shame and. So same as the SODV, where you are able to speak to somebody regarding that privately. That's the one element. And then the second element is we do have an online reporting portal where you can report. You just leave your details, you report directly to ESCOM. What we then do is we contact you, and then we make sure that you go to the right department within the Royal Eswatini Police. Or even if, let's say you are a child, you're young, and you feel uncomfortable, we will get DPM or somebody to actually assist you in terms of reporting, in terms of counseling, even offering that. But also, what we've also done is we've built relations with or agreements with some of these social media platforms. So, for instance, we did assist a young man. His compromising video was trending on social media. We actually, on X, we actually were able to pull it down. within a very short space of time. So building these agreements or relations with these social media platforms do help. We even have one with TikTok as well. So if there is an incident that you see on TikTok, or maybe they've posted whatever, and it compromises you in one way or the other, you don't want it to be on TikTok, you can always contact us, and then they'll pull it down.
Right.
And further investigate on who actually uploaded.
Right, fair enough. Now, we're still very much in the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and often the messages tend to focus on don't share private photos or don't talk to strangers online. But I believe, getting these young people off the social media streets must be quite the challenge. It's actually going to be quite the challenge. What's the deeper mindset or cultural change that we need to have, or really to adapt, to truly build a cyber resilience among citizens, especially the young people? Because yes, you've preached on having a secure passwords and login credentials, but really what more do we need to do beyond that?
I think more than anything, as I mentioned, Kusile, we are a trusting nation, so we tend to trust things. We tend to, I'll see a competition on social media, and then I'll tend to trust. But with cybersecurity, it needs to be a second nature. It's like when you're jumping into a car and fastening a seatbelt. It should be something like that. So that needs to change. We are seeing it slowly changing, but it's not, it's not something that's like there 100%.
Yes.
So a lot of people need to see that it's their responsibility. It always starts with me. Yes, you're telling me not to share, you're telling me not to click, but at the end of the day, why am I not clicking? Why am I not sharing? So we are trying to promote responsible online behavior versus, scaring people into protecting themselves. We are saying that if I click a link, this is what might happen. My responsibility is not to click the link. And how do I see whether this link is bogus or not? So we try to empower citizens to even identify some of these threats.
So Interpol does say that a lot of these sextortion cases were affecting young children, teens and adults, as you've mentioned, and they've increased exponentially in the past 2 years. How then do we bridge the gap between digital rights and digital regulation? Because, internet penetration really continues to deepen by the day.
It's a tricky one, but I say that especially in instances where applications are going to be public facing,
yes,
let them be built with security. So that security is not an afterthought. We don't wait for an incident to happen and then we're like, oh, we forgot to encrypt or we forgot to do whatever. So digital literacy or transformation goes hand in hand with security.
Yes.
So as these applications are built, it must be easy for me to say, set up two-factor authentication. I don't have to go and look for privacy settings or security settings. They should just be there available. So we are trying to promote that with our innovators. We are saying that build security, into the application. Don't bring an application and then think of security as a second layer.
So internet access is expanding rapidly, which is a positive development for both education and business. But how can we then balance, digital inclusion with digital safety?
That's why I'm saying that, digital inclusion and digital safety should go hand in hand.
Yes.
I should know that if I use ABCD, it should be safe for me to use. And I need to make sure that, one, as the user, the end user, I've got all those security settings that are there. Two, the applications, but I've seen it with maybe the banking apps. It's getting easier now to have these security features. They try to make it easy. Maybe you'll have your PIN or your password, and then obviously your biometric authentication. And then thirdly, they'll ask you common questions, something that just in case you forget your password or just in case something happens. So they're making the two-factor authentication a bit easier for us. So we are seeing all of that, and that is also part of digital inclusion, because we're going through this journey. I should not make it difficult for the end user to actually implement some of these security features.
I have to ask, Dr. Tula, out of curiosity, one IT specialist told me that not everything that you delete, it goes away permanently. It just may resurface. It may not be now or in a year's time, but it will resurface, or there's that possibility. So with regards to whether I have images that I've deleted, yes, they're not on my phone, or either, I've activated biometric authentication. Is it really safe, to have my face here or my thumbprint on a device?
I would say that in terms of authentication, it is one of the safest because it is your feature. So if I want to hack into your phone, I cannot. We need the biometric. However, in terms of things that we share online, resurfacing, or things that we do resurfacing in the future, I always tell people to take caution, because I may not tell it today. I'll share a beautiful picture with you. I've deleted it on my device, but then I don't know whether you've deleted it, and I don't know who you'll share that with. Some people do post things online, defamatory things, or they cyberbully other people online, and then they delete the chat. But somebody has captured that. So you'll come, or you'll go to the police and you'll say, oh yeah, this person was cyberbullying, and the person can say, no, I didn't. But then maybe they took a screenshot of your messages. And then thirdly, I always say that you can never fully erase information unless, there's technical ways of actually doing it. But you can never, ever, ever fully. If I want to recover, I'm an IT person, if I want to recover data that you think you've deleted, you as a non-technical person, I may. So I'm not scaring you, but I'm just saying that there are tools.
Now you're bridging my privacy, don't you think?
No, I'm just saying that there are tools. So whatever we have, or images or text or whatever, let's just be cautious. If we don't want people to know about whatever it is that we have on our phones, then let's lock and lock and lock, Even your photos, you can have photos that you can obviously see when you open your phones, and then you can have a hidden folder for your whatever photos or whatever content is.
I'd like for you to set the record straight, or just clarify. There's a circulating notion that the viewer's images on particular messaging apps can actually be retrieved. Is that true?
Okay. In a way, it is true. Let me make this example. You send me something and it's a view once. I have a second phone. I can either capture it if it's a video, record it using the other device.
Okay.
And you think, Noktula just viewed that thing once, but maybe I captured it. Or I can use that phone to take a picture, the second phone to take a picture of the view once image. So yes, in that way, that's the simplest way to actually retrieve that information, or to even share. So I always say that people should be cautious. If I am sending somebody a view once, I need to really trust the person, and these days we know trust age, it's difficult. So I really need to trust Notile and know that Notile will not share that information with anybody else.
So the Commission's school outreach was commended by Interpol, and digital risk awareness alone does not necessarily change online behavior. So how can we then, measure the impact of this initiative and the role that parents can play? Because it's mostly the young people that are at risk. It's mostly the school-going children that are at risk. A school will probably demand that a child has access to a device just so they could administer online learning, but probably the parent doesn't even know what's going on in that device.
Okay. You've asked me sort of like two questions, so I'll address the first one. In terms of actually measuring whether this has an impact or not, we do conduct surveys. So currently we are developing the Child Online Protection Strategy. So what we did, just to try and see whether what we're doing has an impact, or what programs do we need to have or include in the strategy, we took out a survey. We did a survey. Yes, the results were shocking to me as well. So there is a lot that we need to do in terms of actually, capacitating our young people and instilling that responsible online behavior, because they need to know that whatever happens online has repercussions. So there's that. So there's a lot that we need to do there. And then in terms of parents, I know that usually parents say that our children, are tech savvy and, my child will unlock my phone and I didn't even know that my child knew my password, but for whatever reason, they'll unlock my phone. I say that parents have a responsibility to play as well in safeguarding their children. It shouldn't just be the teachers only, but parents as well. So, so long as that person is still, or that young person is still a child, you as a parent, you have a responsibility to protect. You should go and check what your child is doing. You may see their grades dropping or whatever. It could just be because of their behavior, the screen time or whatever. So parents do have a role to play in terms of actually making sure. But having said that, we do need to have conversations with our young people, even as parents, to say that, okay, so my child, these are the rules. This is how you can use a device. This is when you can use a device. You don't go to sleep with a device, and so on and so forth. So parents need to even set those rules.
Yes. Cybersecurity awareness should not be an event. I think it should be a culture. These conversations we need to have all year long. How can we ensure that the momentum that we've built, especially in this month, it continues year-round, especially in schools and in communities, and also among the elder citizens as well?
Natalie, I went to some country, I won't say where cyber messages, they use trains. Messages were all over, they're all over. You get out of a train, in the train station, you'll see a cyber message. I hope we will get to that one day, because this is not something that only ESCOM can do, or only the Royal Eswatini Police can do, but the entire community actually needs to do that. So for it to be a continuous thing, we are saying that the community, whether it's the private sector, whoever, we need to talk about these things. We need to share those messages. We need to know that, okay, yes, we can report cyber incidents. We need to be empowered enough to even recognize those threats on a daily basis and have those conversations. I don't know why we wait for October just to speak about cyber, but it's a year-long thing. We do need to talk about that. But as ESCOM, we don't just do the awareness campaign in October. We go to schools throughout the year.
Yeah. As we conclude our conversation, Mapengu, perhaps I'd like to give you a moment, to address our young people, to address Eswatini. We are nearing the end of the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. What single message would you want every Liswati, whether the youth, teenagers, adults, from Babane to Nhlangano, that you would like them to remember about actually staying safe online?
Okay. I've been asked that question a lot of times, but I think the one thing is that it all starts with you. Everyone has a role to play. So for me to protect myself, I need to make sure that I've password protected my phone or my device or my gadget. 2, I am suspicious of links that I click.
Yes.
3, if somebody calls me and they say they're a person of authority, I question that. If somebody, because nowadays they even text you on WhatsApp now, and they put that Royal Eswatini Police logo. If they do, I need to verify that the person is who they say they are. Yes. We need to be suspicious. We always need to be alive to the fact that, cyber attackers are there. They are going to try and trick us into something, Yeah, so.
Noktula, thank you so much for your time, and for our viewers, digital safety starts with you. Verify what appears too good to be true. That was Noktula Hlope, who is the ESCOM Cybercrime Assistant Director. Stay tuned. Our second bulletin coming up after this.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Good morning once again. In our English news bulletin, the Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Thuli Dladla, has handed over 2 houses in 2 constituencies, Mhlambanyati and Mgongo. Honorable Dladla says that social workers from the Deputy Prime Minister's office will meet with constituency councils to discuss priority issues, particularly cases involving vulnerable individuals in need of housing. Dladla says that these discussions will help ensure that priority areas are well identified when budgeting process begins. The Deputy Prime Minister made these remarks during the official handover ceremony.
The Deputy Prime Minister, Honorable Thuli Dladla, began a tour by presenting a house at Zondwaku Chiefdom under the Mhlambanyati constituency. The house was handed over to Bawinile Phakathi, whose home had been destroyed by heavy rains.
Kusebenta i-constitution kuthatha elichi kepha ke umthetho wayo decentralization vele uyakhankaswa utokhona ukuthi lama services abele hulumende abele kubantu atokhona ukuthi umuntu angagibeli ibhasi lokuthi naye nalozuka ayoshona embabane.
The Deputy Prime Minister says that government is currently working on decentralization policy aimed at ensuring the effective implementation of the constitution of the country and bringing services closer to the people. Dladla says that the intention is to build these structures before disasters strike. Bawinile Phakathi, who received the house, expressed her gratitude to their majesties, saying it had been difficult to live in her old home, especially during rainy seasons.
Emakhosini nkosami ngitibongela kakhulu ngweselwe emandla nginenjabulela ngabe ichichima tinyembeti.
Sandile Smelane, representing the Zondwago Chiefdom, commended government for bringing services to the people, such as the mobile exercise and the visit of His Majesty.
Lo mhlabathi la kwakhiwe khona lendlu wakaphakathi.
Simelane says that the chiefdom will ensure that no one takes the land from the Phakathi family. The Deputy Prime Minister announced that the home will be fenced soon and also presented food items to the Phakathi family. The Deputy Prime Minister and her delegation then proceeded to the Mabugwini area under the Mangongco Chiefdom, where the Deputy Prime Minister presented a house to 77-year-old Robert Mabuza.
Bengembesa liseyili etuwethi ngubo lina elitulu njoba belini lina elitulu ngithi hawu ngizawufela khona.
Mabuza shared that his life had been miserable as he was often seeking shelter from neighbors. Mabuza expressed gratitude and encouraged that other needy people also receive similar support. Honorable Thuli Dladla stated that elderly people are very close to their majesties, who have directed government to ensure that senior citizens are well taken care of.
Nine phela vele ni special enkosini. Ni special emakhosini ethu. Ithi teyilapha eParliament yathi icela sigcinele nine. Ningahlukubeteki. Ningaphatheki kabi.
Dladla says that social workers will meet with constituency council to discuss priority areas so that budget allocations can address the most urgent needs. The Mangongdo Member of Parliament, Honorable Lomalanga Dlamini, says that the constituency has many vulnerable cases and also faces challenges with road infrastructure.
DPM nawo ngicabanga ukuthi sowubonile nawe uhambe emadima la ndleleni kulukhuni kakhulu nebantwana nje labafunza bo high school besuka la bayofika le la ubranch ekhona eTnyonini bahamba kona lo mgwaqo lo akusinemgwaqo indlela.
Jabulani Dlamini, representing the Mapugwini chiefdom, urged Mabuza's children to appreciate the role of the chiefdom as the new home come through its effort.
Lesingakusho nje kubantu abakhe umpa indlunkulu kabayadi ngoba konke lokudalwa indlunkulu kube bengokho indlunkulu ngakukho.
The Deputy Prime Minister presented food items, beds, and wardrobe to the Mabuza family. Both houses are valued at 360,000 emalangeni. Reporting Sondomlangeni, Mapugwini, Mangongdo.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Honorable Polile Shakantu, says the Kingdom of Eswatini and Russia are moving to expand visa-free travel. Honorable Shakantu says that the proposed agreement aims to boost tourism, trade and diplomatic ties, while the Ministry of Home Affairs is currently reviewing the extension of the visa exemption to include ordinary international passport holders.
The Kingdom of Eswatini currently enjoys a visa waiver agreement with the Russian Federation for holders of diplomatic and service passports. These agreements allow officials from both nations to travel without the need for a visa. In September 2024, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Honorable Polile Shakantu, met with her Russian counterpart, His Excellency Sergei Lavrov, in Moscow for exploring areas of cooperation, particularly in tourism and trade. The minister, Honorable Polile Shakantu, says following the discussions, the Russian government proposed extending the visa exemption to include holders of ordinary international passports. Shakantu says the proposed extension aimed to promote easier travel between the two countries, boosting tourism, increase trade, and strengthen people-to-people connections. The minister says currently the Minister of Home Affairs, which oversees immigration matters, is reviewing the proposal. Honorable Shakantu says Eswatini expects the initiative to bring numerous benefits, including attracting more Russian tourists, opening trade opportunities for local entrepreneurs, and facilitating travel for Eswatini students studying in Russia as well as their families. The minister says the proposal also reflects Eswatini's broader efforts to enhance international cooperation and advance international interest through stronger global partnerships. The minister says that the government of Eswatini has emphasized that visa agreements are a sovereign matter, do not conflict with Southern Africa Development Community SADC or African Union AU policies. The minister says government has assured that national and regional security will remain protected as visitors under the new arrangement will be required to stay within Eswatini's borders. The minister says if approved, the extended visa exemption is expected to further strengthen Eswatini's diplomatic relations with Russia while creating new opportunities for economic growth and cultural exchange. Reporting, Sondomlangeni, Mbabane.
Macmillan Eswatini has been able to digitalize 176 books out of the 202 books that are used in primary schools in the kingdom. According to the Managing Director, Bongan Mosa, it is crucial for Eswatini to strengthen her e-learning initiatives. Mosa was speaking during the Minister of Education's working visit at Macmillan Warehouse on Monday.
Macmillan started operating in the Kingdom of Eswatini in 1979. Macmillan's warehouse was officially opened by the then Minister of Education, John Kamakela, around 1991. On Monday, the Minister of Education, Honorable Owen Ngumalo, visited the warehouse, where he was informed that the warehouse supplies learning materials to countries like Lesotho, Namibia, and South Africa. Macmillan is also keen on digitization.
The government's Digital Transformation Strategy 2024-2028 sets out a bold vision, one where technology amplifies human potential, and a vision where learning reaches every corner of our kingdom.
The minister applauded Macmillan for her stellar contribution to the kingdom. For the past 46 years, she has been in partnership with government.
Macmillan has invested in the future of our learners by sponsoring the ministry's blended learning project, which involves utilization of Macmillan's digital platform to deliver 21st century teaching and learning through 2 pilot public schools with a cohort of learners that began this journey in 2022 when they were in grade 4. As we look ahead to a new era of competency-based education, digital learning, and cross-sectional collaboration, we stand on the shoulders of this remarkable history.
There are 202 books that are used at primary school. Macmillan has been able to digitalize 176 of those books. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm LinkedIn Gule, Matsapa.
The Eswatini Environmental Authority continues to engage all stakeholders regarding the phasing out of the production and consumption of ozone-depleting substances. EEA is having a meeting with members of the Refrigerator and Air Conditioners Association to capacitate them on the legislative reforms that the country has done towards achieving the Montreal Protocol.
The Kingdom of Eswatini has made great strides in the implementation of the Montreal Protocol, which encourages member states to eliminate the use of hydrochlorofluorocarbons. The Eswatini Environmental Authority is having a meeting with engineers, especially those from the Eswatini Refrigerator Association, to capacitate them on the latest legislative amendments towards achieving the Montreal Protocol.
Our aim is not to overregulate the sector and stifle development, but to ensure that the real goal of phasing out controlled substances is achieved. And we think empowering and working in collaboration with the industry is one of the ways to go. It is my hope that from this meeting, we will come up with a solution on how to make the association operational and dynamic this time around.
The Refrigerator Association applauds EEA for ensuring that the association is revived. UNDP country representative Hendrik Flengren says Eswatini has done a lot towards implementing the Montreal Protocol.
Eswatini is part of a global success story, the Montreal Protocol and its Kigali Amendment, which is widely recognized as the most successful multilateral agreement in time. These agreements began as a response to ozone depletion, but they have evolved into a powerful tool for climate action. Phasing out HCFCs, particularly HCFC 22, which is still in use here in Eswatini, is not only about environmental compliance, but it is about reducing greenhouse gases and cooling the planet.
The Kingdom wants to have fully implemented the Montreal Protocol by 2030. In January this year, the country adopted regulations that will operationalize the legislation that seeks to ban the importation of all refrigerators and air conditioners with HCFCs. Reporting, I'm LinkedIn Gule, Mansini.
With the government set to implement salary reviews this year, the Minister for Finance, Honourable New Weikenberg, has outlined the expected impact on the national budget. The minister indicated that the public sector wage bill could reach approximately 1 billion Malangeni next year. Speaking during the ministry's Finance in Focus program, the minister assured the nation that service delivery will not be affected.
The Honourable Minister explains how the budget will be impacted because of the salary review, stating that the government believes the salary review was necessary.
This year's budget is going to be impacted, definitely meaning that we're going to have an over-expenditure on the wage bill front. So we are now looking at where can we make cuts in government to try to really not have the whole budget go over at the end of the year. So we're trying to make cuts to fit in the salary review that was done this year. Next year is going to be even tougher because the wage bill is going up from more or less 800 million to more or less 1 billion. And so next year, even though we're probably going to have if you look at this year's expenditure was about 32.6
is more or less this year's expenditure. Next year is probably going to go up at probably about 2.5 around there billion, 2.5 to 3 billion, we hope. Once we get there, we'll know all the truth. And it's meaning that the bulk of that will now be utilized for the salary review exercise.
Honorable Neil Rickenbach says that despite this, there will be some budget adjustments, but the government is confident in managing the salary review changes to the budget. He emphasizes that service delivery will remain a priority. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla, some visuals from the Ministry of Finance.
The Prime Minister, Honorable Russell Dlamini, says the government does not agree with the decision to privatize the Baha'i schools of Eswatini, turning it into an independent institution that is no longer under government control. This matter, along with other cases that took place in the High Court, is covered in the following report compiled by our journalist, Fortune Langamandla.
In an affidavit before the High Court, the Prime Minister, Honorable Russell Dlamini, told the court that in 2024 he held a meeting with members of the Baha'i Church. He says the meeting discussed the proposed privatization of Baha'i schools, which would remove them from government control. The Prime Minister says he told the Baha'i representatives that issues related to mission schools fall under the legal jurisdiction of the Ministry of Education, and that the Principal Secretary was already handling the matter. He stresses that the issue was never brought before Cabinet, and no Cabinet decision was ever taken regarding Baha'i schools. He reiterates that government does not agree with privatization, noting that government has invested in land, buildings, finances, teachers, and other support for mission schools. He adds that allowing schools to operate independently could destabilize education and limit access for thousands of children. The Prime Minister adds that making mission schools private could create unequal access to education, which will contradict the Constitution and government policy. He emphasizes that the Minister of Education overstepped his authority in declaring Baha'i schools private. This follows last month's High Court decision by Judge Bonkos Magagula, who suspended the ministerial directive and ordered that Baha'i schools remain under government control until the case is finalized. The Prime Minister and Minister Ngumalo have been joined as respondents. The government is represented by lawyer Sponkosi Dlamini from the chambers of the Attorney General, while the Baha'i Church is represented by law firm Robson Petram. In a separate case, Judge Bongan Dlamini found guilty Themba Thami Mbuli of murdering his friend Spusiso Smoli Ngwenya. Mbuli testified that he and his friend were members of the 26 gang, and the friend asked him to stab him as part of a gang initiation ritual. Mbuli allegedly stabbed his friend 5 times on September 20, 2022 at Potosini. The judge found no provocation or behavior that would justify the act and wrote that both were willing participants in the ritual. The court concluded that Mbuli knew the act was illegal, but under the circumstances, no reasonable person would have believed the act was justified. Reporting Fortune Dlangamandla, High Court.
In our international update this morning, the United States and China are moving towards a potential trade agreement. Well, that is at least according to U.S. President Donald Trump, ahead of his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping on October 30th in South Korea. Trump said the two countries are set to come away with a deal. The discussions aim to ease trade tensions that have affected global economic relations, though details of the agreement have not yet been finalized.
It seems that a U.S.-China trade war could be averted. Representatives of the countries announced Sunday that a framework had been established going forward to address economic issues on the table, including TikTok, export controls on rare earth minerals, and tariffs.
After more than a day of intensive discussions, China and the United States further explored solutions for properly addressing each other's concerns on the aforementioned issues, reaching preliminary consensus.
Echoing the trade negotiators' stance, the U.S. Treasury Secretary announced in an interview that 100% tariffs on Beijing would be taken off the table.
I can tell you we had a very good 2 days, so I would expect that the threat of the 100% has gone away, as has the threat of the immediate imposition of the Chinese initiating a worldwide export control regime.
He also said that a potential deal on U.S. soybean exports, which China halted as the trade war grew, could resume in a move that would make U.S. farmers feel very good. Meanwhile, China's foreign minister took a firm stance through another channel at a forum in Beijing Monday morning.
We call for an end to politicizing economic and trade issues, artificially fragmenting global markets, and resorting to trade wars and tariffs battles.
Beijing's foreign minister underscored that the tide of history cannot be reversed and that a multipolar world is coming. A worldview that will be tested Thursday when U.S. President Donald Trump meets with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in South Korea.
Brutal winds and torrential rain battered Jamaica on Monday as Hurricane Melissa, a slow-moving Category 5 storm, neared the island. Prime Minister Andrew Holness warned it could be Jamaica's most destructive storm on record. Melissa has already killed at least 4 people in Haiti and the Dominican Republic.
From space, you can see what a catastrophic storm looks like, complete with lightning strikes and the eye of the storm. With the highest designation on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale, Melissa is packing sustained winds of up to 282 kilometers per hour. The storm is widely expected to be the most powerful Jamaica has ever recorded.
It is not a joke. It is very serious, guys, and it is going to be something different. The figures we think will be astronomical. Yeah, they will be hard to digest when this is over.
Thousands of people in southern Jamaica are under evacuation orders, but many have decided to stay put and ride out the storm. The Prime Minister has already called on foreign support, warning the country's infrastructure cannot withstand a storm of such magnitude. In Florida, volunteers were already answering the call, packing up food and other necessities.
I was born in Jamaica. I live here in Miami, Florida. I have a lot of family back home in Jamaica that will potentially be impacted by this. I have families that live in the hills, family that live below sea level, so we're really nervous for them.
In Haiti and the Dominican Republic, the storm has already caused deadly flooding, and torrential downpours have forced thousands into temporary shelters. And in Cuba, authorities said they'd evacuated more than 500,000 people from vulnerable areas. Scientists say storms are building intensity more quickly as a result of climate change, warming ocean waters. Melissa is expected to move over Jamaica through Tuesday, then cross eastern Cuba and the Bahamas by Wednesday.
The Rapid Support Forces have released videos claiming their takeover of the Sudanese Army headquarters in Al Fashir, the last army stronghold in Darfur. While RSF soldiers celebrate, local army allied fighters say fighting continues. If the city falls, all 5 Darfur state capitals would be under RSF control amid an 18-month siege that has caused severe starvation and displaced millions in Sudan's 2-year war.
Videos released by the Rapid Support Forces, soldiers are celebrating.
Film the army division, film for the people, film for the world. The division is well secured.
This drone footage was released by the paramilitary group on Sunday. It shows what it claims were the first moments of its takeover of the army headquarters in El Fasher, the Sudanese army's last stronghold in the Darfur region.
Today is a historic day. Today we raise the flag of freedom.
However, it's unclear when the videos were taken, and local fighters allied with the army say they are continuing to fight the RSF. If the group takes over the city, it would mark a major turning point in Sudan's 2-year war, bringing all 5 Darfur state capitals under RSF control, a state it claims as the base for a parallel government established this summer. The city of El Fasher had been besieged by the group for the past 18 months, a blockade that has caused starvation among the 250,000 people remaining in the west of the city. On Thursday, the UN warned that thousands of malnourished children are at imminent risk of death. The war between the Sudanese army and the RSF began in April 2023. The fighting has displaced millions, plunged half of Sudan into hunger, and spread disease across the country.
Cameroon's 92-year-old president, Paul Biya, has been re-elected for an 8th term with 53.7% of the vote, according to the Constitutional Council. His main rival, Issa Chiroma Bakary, who claimed a victory based on his own tally, denounced the result and said civilians outside his home were fired upon. Protests erupted in several cities, leaving 4 people dead and over 100 arrested as authorities banned public gathering and dismissed allegations of fraud.
The world's oldest president, Paul Biya, is set for another 7-year term after Cameroon's top court announced he'd won 53.7% of the vote 2 weeks after the election.
Est ainsi proclamé élu président de la République.
Paul Biya is hereby declared elected president, having obtained the majority of the votes cast.
Le candidat Biya Paul.
Biya's re-election for an 8th term came despite the 92-year-old barely making an appearance on the campaign trail. Biya's closest rival, Issa Chiroma Bakary, came in second with 35%, according to the Constitutional Council. Immediately after the announcement, Chiroma Bakary wrote on Facebook that gunfire was being directed at civilians gathered outside his home. Chiroma had published his own tally 2 days after the October 12th election, which showed him as the winner. Protests then flared in several cities after partial results reported by local media showed Biya on course to win.
We just want freedom and the victory of our president Issa Chiroma Bakary. We want change. 43 years is too much. We don't want it anymore. We don't want war.
L'heure est grave.
This is a serious moment, and we will not accept our victory being stolen from us. If they prefer to threaten the country's serenity and peace, rather than admit defeat, we will respond with the peaceful determination of the people.
Détermination pacifique du peuple.
The government has rejected opposition accusations of voting irregularities and banned public gatherings since the election. Demonstrations turned deadly over the weekend, with 4 people killed in Douala and several others injured. Cameroonian authorities reported 106 arrests.
France's government is deadlocked over a proposed wealth tax on the richest households, with the 2% Zuckman tax facing opposition from business leaders. The Socialist Party's compromise, Zuckman Light, offers a lower threshold, but economist Gabriel Zuckman warns loopholes would undermine the tax.
With French public finances wobbling under the weight of the largest deficit in the Eurozone, one proposal in particular has held the spotlight.
La taxe Zuckman.
The Zuckman tax. As envisioned by French economist Gabriel Zuckman, the 2% tax on fortunes of over 100 million euros would affect some 1,800 of the country's wealthiest households and in theory raise up to 20 billion euros in revenues, nearly half the government's savings target for its next budget. Business leaders and conservative politicians have rejected it out of hand. They say any tax on business assets in particular, like shares in valuable tech firms that have yet to turn a profit, would stifle investment and innovation. Seeking compromise, the center-left Socialist Party has floated what it's calling Zuckman Light, a tax of 3% on fortunes of 10 million euros and up, a lower threshold, but with less ambitious revenue goals.
We will be the first country in the world to adopt a minimum tax on billionaires, including business assets. Our amendment will bring in 7 billion euros.
The socialist plan would exclude family businesses as well as what it calls innovative ones. The government of Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu, meanwhile, has proposed taxing holdings under wealth management of 5 million and up, while excluding business assets. Zuckman himself says any loopholes are anathema to an effective wealth tax.
At 100 million, if you are that rich, you don't need any carve-outs or tax havens. If we make a tax that is riddled with loopholes, that offers the chance to evade it, and you are condemned it to failure.
Some of France's wealthiest entrepreneurs have themselves described the country as a tax haven for the super rich. French billionaires pay on average half the tax rate of the average citizen.
Moving on to sports, the Minister for Sports, Honorable Wanganzima, says Eswatini's hosting of the Clean Sports Workshop demonstrates the country's commitment to maintaining integrity and upholding ethics in sports. The Minister was speaking during the opening of the 4-day Anoka Zone 6 workshop held at the Sibaini Lodge in Matshapa. And with that, we wrap up our English news bulletin this morning. Stay tuned. The show continues after this.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi.
Aba-researche, bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sente ukukhiqiza ngokusembili.
When you choose your adventures, you do so with an open heart and a desire for the unexpected. You embark on journeys to discover new worlds full of wonder. You choose a path to awaken your senses, a world to make you look up and realize just how inspiring this life can be. Arrive and awaken your heart. Explore life in ways only thought possible in your dreams. Discover just how far you go to expand your understanding of life's greatest mysteries. There's just one place on this planet with so much to offer. Now is the time for you to have the royal experience.
Good morning again and welcome back to the Breakfast Show. As local government campaigns flare up in Johannesburg, conversations around urban development are once again taking center stage. And indeed, here at home, that is the same reality once again. One message is the anchor, and it's a clear message. A city's economic growth depends on how responsive it is to its people. And indeed, here at home in Mbabane, that same conversation takes form today, this morning, where the Municipal Council is hosting its second local government masterclass under the theme, Transforming Mbabane into a Responsive Smart City to Drive Economic Growth. Now, this conversation is not going to be, the usual tech-centric smart city dialogue. Yes, technology remains part of the conversation, but the real story this time around is economic responsiveness, innovation, and how Mbabane can position itself as a self-sustaining ecosystem. Because Mbabane, its economy is uniquely local. The people who live here, work here, and they spend here, they are the economy. So how does Mbabane make sure that this local economy thrives, that it circulates value internally and sustains itself long into the future? To help us understand this and unpack it, and just really get into what this masterclass will be talking about in terms of the bigger economic context, Sanele Sbia, our economist, joins us now. Sanele, a very good morning to you and welcome back to the show. We love having you here. Today's masterclass, it brings together investors, it brings developers, it also brings policymakers to discuss how Mbabane, as a captive economy, can sustain itself. How can it generate and thrive sustainably through its people and through itself? Before we dive into the specifics, help us understand why this conversation is critical now in Eswatini.
Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo, and a good afternoon, a good morning to you and your viewers out there. So when we're talking of Mbabane as this smart city, and what now does it mean for Mbabane to be a responsive city and for the economy. So when you look at those dimensions, Mr. Ngumalo, as you rightly pointed earlier on, when we're talking of smart cities, we need to somehow move away from the thinking that it is all about technology, but it is about people and how then you integrate all of those different dynamics into a very productive and vibrant city, including a very productive value chain. So what we are looking into here is ensuring that you have a city that can respond to the realities of the people, so that when we plan for the people, we're able to ensure that we catalyze the growth, because as it were, we are countries where we know that our growth comes from our people right now at this point. So what we need to do is to use technology to catalyze that, Mr. Ngumalo, as you've rightly pointed.
Important for Mbabane to focus on building economic responsiveness before chasing high-end technology. Because, yes, indeed, the default notion when we say the word smart city is tech-centric approach to things, which has a sense of truth to it because, yes, the future is, technology. But why is it important that we focus on the economic responsiveness first before the high-end technology?
That's because, Mr. Ngumalo, before you can go into that high-tech space, what you need to do first is to have a thriving economy. And what you need to be able to do is to have the city of Mbabane being in a position to always respond to the needs of the people and also be able to catalyze the businesses of the people. So that's where you need to start first, and then you can build off of that base. Because you have to also understand that high-tech in itself is also an economic activity. That's where we expect growth to come from in the long term. So what you need to do is make sure that you have the basics and the fundamentals are really closed in, so that you can begin building a circular economy, which you can then use technology to help you be responsive to the needs of the citizens.
I beg your pardon. The chief executive of Mbabane, Tiniwe Fagutse, often speaks of Mbabane as a local, contained, a captive economy, if you want, which literally means that the people who live here, they work here, they spend here, and they build here, right? What kind of does that create for a local economy cycle, truly?
So when you look at Mbabane and its architecture, what you then see is a city that we would just somehow call it somewhat of a circular economy. Think of a recycling type of environment where everything gets reused and it's used here. So that presents an opportunity where there are less leakages. So what you then have is people who are here, working here and spending here. So now that's very good for demand, and we know that, when there's good demand, there's also good growth in the economy. So what this then presents to Mbabane as a unique opportunity is this opportunity to grow organically through her own people and ensuring that you can keep the economy contained here in Mbabane, and that tends to create a lot of job opportunities going forward because we don't have much leakages, and you ensure that the industries that are in Mbabane tend to serve Mbabane people by ensuring that they also create that demand once they have that income.
Yeah, and we've seen some, you speak about this cycle, which is secular, compelling for, a large demand, which therefore informs that there should be the supply that is going to meet that secular demand that you speak of. And indeed, we have seen, PSPF sort of responding to that demand through residential, commercial projects. I think one of the biggest ones is right in the middle of town. How do institutional investors like the PSPF reshape not just a city skyline, but also its economic rhythm?
So we have to think of confidence, Mr. Ngumalo. When you have big institutional investors like your PSPF, your ENPF, really investing in a certain locale, what that then communicates to the business community out there is we are confident in the potential of this place and we are here to stay. So now that creates that confidence with other investors to say, no, let's go into Mbabane. There must have been something that these big institutional investors with their big dashboards and their analysts and everyone else involved in that has actually seen. So that potential and that confidence. And then also the issue of, such projects creating local jobs, because when you talk of housing and building those construction jobs and whatnot, again, it goes back to that captive type of economy where you are going to use mostly people from Mbabane in those projects.
It's quite interesting indeed. And, I also do want us to get into the dynamic of the occupants of the eventual project being fully implemented. I mean, you sort of give me the answer and an interesting dynamic to which we address the issue of the building block and, the building process, as it were. People who are in the vicinity of Mbabane or within this captive economy will be the ones that will be employed, which is, a good employment dynamic there. But what about the occupants? Because as we are speaking about a captive economy, we did say people who live here, who also spend here, right, are going to grow here. Let's take me, for instance, and say I occupy one of these flats that are built inside town. Why is that important as we speak into this circular dynamic that you're speaking of?
So what that creates, Mr. Ngumalo, is if you're looking at the occupants, they are Mbabane bred people. So one thing that we've seen with, when you talk of quite a number of conurbations, I'll give you the story of, Sentin. When Sentin came up, we saw main Josie dying there, downtown Josie, as it was the business hub before. But that's what happens when you have businesses and a local economy being driven by people who do not come from that area, right? Yet when you're talking of occupants of that place, you've got this thing, Tumbabane, you have this sentimental alignment with the city. Therefore, if we have growth in Mbabane being driven by people of Mbabane, you always want to see the city thrive, and you are going to, make it work. You know the value chains, you know the value in that local landscape. So it somehow creates that stability, long-term stability, to say you have inhabitants who are going to be here for the long term. So both from a demand perspective, that's demand that you are likely going to have for the rest of the life of that person. And from a supply perspective, though local inhabitants are always looking for business opportunities and investment opportunities. So it is one of those what's it called, a conundrum, no? A cauldron type of setup where you have both as a potential supply and potential demand going forward.
I suppose that also informs, the dynamic of urban regeneration where there's housing and there's also lifestyle in the same sort of cycle. And when we speak urban regeneration, something that has become a global economic driver. Cities are intentionally designing spaces where people can now live, they can work, but they can also play within reach. They don't have to go too far, right? What role can that sort of housing and spatial planning play in creating an economy that literally lives within people?
So when you think of that, I like the way you're putting it. We work here, we live here, we plan, we play here, right? So what that creates in economics, we call it an agglomeration, where you just have a lot of people in one place living here, eating here, and imagine that sort of concentrated demand in one place where I don't necessarily have to move out from Mbabane to now go for my recreational facilities and also go to work. And that somehow makes it easy for the consumption to be kept within that one place and for productivity to also grow. Because remember, when we are out there in the workplace, we are not just robots, we are not the technology we expound, we talk about, but we are human beings who have this entire requirement, embodied amongst ourselves, which part of it, recreation and being able to just hang out, is quite critical for, for productivity.
Yeah. I like the term agglomeration. I'll look it up after our interview. It sounds like something that will fascinate me indeed. But if Mbabane begins attracting more young professionals like myself to live and spend in the city, let's talk about the multiply effects now. What kind of multiply effects could that have on the local business and service industries?
So when you talk of that youthful dynamic, Mr. Nxumalo, what then comes to mind is the fact that you are going to have not only the innovation that comes with the youth. You know how an economy always morphs and how, product lines always change and how sources of growth always get renewed and you always find new sources of growth. So right now we are at that point in the economy where what worked yesterday requires a bit of recalibration and to take up the technology space. And the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I know some of us still believe in our traditional ledgers, but when you're bringing in the youth now, you are bringing in this new aspect, a generation that is willing to embrace and take technology forward. So that's going to somehow drive long-term growth within the city. And then also what you're doing, Mr. Nxumalo, is you are creating this new base of potential demand that you're going to have, say, for the next 25 years when you have these young professionals coming into the space, because they're going to make money in Mbabane and they're going to live in Mbabane, as we've already said, and they're going to spend in Mbabane. So now that creates a sort of a sustained demand going forward, which will further drive the economy of Mbabane upwards in terms of the trajectory. And also, as we aspire to make Mbabane a smart city, what we need to do and learn to understand is the fact that that comes with new dynamics which have to be understood, and our young people are best poised to understand those dynamics. And I mean, you need to talk of the connectivity and all of those. The young people will definitely enjoy those services and drive growth going forward.
Yeah, you cannot indeed teach an old dog new tricks. I think they call you guys dinosaurs. Is that correct?
Fossils, ne?
All right, let's speak innovation, finance, and liquidity. And I think, innovation is something that you just spoke on right now when you said if Mbabane is intentional about, attracting young professionals are innovative just by nature. And, that is going to have that kind of multiplier effect, and which is a very good multiplier effect. We also to see a panel that will also feature the African Alliance, which is expected to introduce something new, which is called supply chain financing model. You probably know of that better than I do. but they speak to it as a mechanism that keeps liquidity flowing even when cash slows down. And I think that is very interesting, and I find it hard to understand how that can be put into undertaking, really. How important are innovations like this for a city-level economic resilience? But first, just start by explaining to us what really a new supply chain financing model looks like, one that allows liquidity to flow even when cash slows down. What does that look like?
Thank you, Ngumalo. So to begin, let's just think of, say, Ngumalo Incorporated selling, for example, let's say speakers. So Ngumalo Incorporated will not have the funds to go back to say, the supplier to get the new product until and unless we've come and we bought all of your speakers, and then now you have the liquidity to go back to market. And think of, institutional order financing, where you are going to supply a certain institution, and at that point you are going to have to wait for that money to come back, say 30 to 60 days later. So what that means is during that 30 to 60 days, you are not going to have the liquidity. So that means even if you got a new client, you are not going to be able to supply that client. But now with supply chain financing, what then happens is you are then able to also go and take up an order even if you do not have the money. As long as you can prove that I have this order and I need to finance it, then you have a financier coming in on board and helping you through. So now that helps you stay liquid and manage the business even when you are still waiting for those invoices to come back and pay. So what that then does for an economy, Ngumalo, is it keeps the economy grinding. I'm just going to make a very sad example. When we talk of government suppliers and, the cash flow constraints that they faced. So such innovations allow businesses to thrive even when your clients take a bit of time to pay back. So that means you're able to keep your employees working, you're able to keep your clients happy, and you're able to sustain demand within the local economy. And you also make sure that you sustain those local industries. They are not killed by cash flow problems because you always inject a liquidity of sorts into the business processes, therefore building a resilient economy in the long term.
Wow, it sounds like it's going to be a big breakthrough, for a lot of businesses in Mbabane, and I want to see this permeate the whole country. Sounds like something that we urgently need now more than ever in Eswatini. But on the development finance side, the Industrial Development Company of Eswatini plays a pivotal role. It's popularly known as the IDCE. How can institutions like them support small and medium enterprises that are ready to innovate as well as participate in a smarter economy here in Mbabane?
So I think one of the things I like about IDAS is the fact that they've changed their model to, being one where they want to partner with the different companies that they work with. So that then allows them to bring in the expertise in terms of, the organizational management and the overall oversight of the business, while at the same time they are pumping in this capital. So one of the things that we've seen as a problem is the fact that most of our traditional financing models, Mr. Ngumalo, particularly here in Eswatini, fail to understand innovation. We are still quite traditional in terms of what we call collateral-based lending. Yet with the new innovations, it's mostly about funding an idea, and the IDICE model there comes in and ensures that IDICE becomes quite pivotal throughout the whole process. They own that business. So that in itself, number one, creates a bit of trust in that new model. And also you have a company, an industrial development entity that is willing to walk the long talk, the long journey with you. So that is basically where we expect IDICE to come into play. And in also funding that innovation, they will be part of the entire process. And that's when you are able to see, stop these investors from making those, haphazard decisions. And then also what we look into, Nxumalo, is the fact that, funding technology is quite difficult. Finding innovation is quite difficult. So when you have a company that owns a portion of that entity and they look through and look forward, and we're able to invest in that. So we are quite confident that such a model will drive innovation in the long term.
Yeah, this is my parting question. In South Africa, right next to us, we have seen, the campaigns for local governance. I've seen Helen Zille going to literally every media station. Some of the realities in Johannesburg are quite painful for the residents, and she speaks on redefining the growth models of Johannesburg, and it seems as though there's a lot of appetite for that, even for people from the ANC. So how do we position ourselves as Eswatini as a regional innovation hub? What lessons can Mbabane draw from Johannesburg and cities like Cape Town who have done amazingly?
I think number one is you have to be intentional about it, Nxumalo. By being intentional, it means you have to put your money where your mouth is, and I think Mbabane has done that. We've seen Mbabane, planting hotspots and also, pushing for digital platforms. When you talk of, your rate statement, you receive it now. Your rate meetings, they are using the e-governance platform. But what we can really leverage from Johannesburg is, the branding component of it. Number one, we need to brand Mbabane as this innovative hub. And secondly, the city of Mbabane can work with the likes of Limco Queen University of Creative Technology, Eswatini College of Technology, and the Christian University and the University of Eswatini. All those, entities that are in Mbabane to build those innovative hubs within those institutions that are already moving in that direction. So there is quite a bit of, relationships that need to be built in order to ensure that we are able to build this. And also in putting the infrastructure, we've seen, Mbabane has gone on fiber. Quite a huge portion of this beautiful city of ours has gone into fiber optic, connectivity. So now that's going to also improve the connectivity within Mbabane, and that's what business is like. And we need to ensure that we continue pushing, working with other stakeholders to ensure that we get the infrastructure ready for commerce to come and leverage on that.
Thank you for your time. Local government, smart cities for economic growth, and indeed we live here, we spend here, we grow here. And we want a Mbabane that allows for opportunity where livability can coexist as well. Let's go for a net break. We'll wrap up the show shortly.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.za.
And that brings us to the end of the Tuesday edition of Kusile Breakfast Show. We really do hope that you enjoyed the conversations or interviews that we had for you here on the show today.
And I certainly hope you enjoy your day as well. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.